Ben, welcome.
Yeah, thank
Cheers.
you. Cheers. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks very much for coming on.
Right.
We've known each other a few years now, and chef extraordinaire.
Yeah.
Now culinary hospitality teacher at a local college.
Yeah.
And I guess first of all, what sort of steered you down the path of getting into cooking?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a journey. I think you look back right down to childhood and parents, they'd always cook fresh meals, always do everything properly fresh. Mum would have meals done for when we get home from school, and we all of us, like I've got 4 siblings, we'd all get stuck in the kitchen helping out with dishes and helping out with prep. So I think that's where it stemmed from. And then just throughout school doing food technology and stuff, I just really enjoyed it, and I was naturally quite good at it.
Yeah. Did Mum have a signature dish?
Pasta bake. It
Okay.
was so good. It's something so simple but so delicious.
Yeah.
Fresh and hot, especially in cold England. It was good. So,
Because whereabouts in England did you grow up?
from Aylesbury, so it's about an hour north of London.
Okay.
Quite a big town now. It's about 100,000 people in it. It's grown over time. It's a bit of a little hub away from London that people commute into London from.
Yes. Okay.
And then from that, just kind of went into Culinary College. So I kind of, during year 11 at school, I struggled with exams and stuff. And I originally wanted to do sixth form.
Yeah.
But the results weren't quite good enough. And so I kind of fell back. I knew that cooking would have been kind of the route that I wanted to go down. But I think a bit of peer pressure that other friends wanted to go into sixth form and stuff. And I think that kind of pushed me towards that. But
so do you not have to do sixth form?
No, so at that time you could have finished at year 11 and then gone to college, which is like a polytech.
Okay.
Or sixth form. So I went down the polytech college kind of route, and I loved it. So I did a full year catering, level 4 equivalent to New Zealand.
Yeah.
And then a 2-year apprenticeship after that.
Okay.
Just a local pub that I was working at before.
Nice.
And then just from there, I just loved it and decided to go travelling.
Yeah.
And then came to New Zealand and always kind of had the idea of living somewhere else.
Yeah.
And just loved it here. So then I stuck at it, went back to England and worked my arse off for a year to save enough money to move. And then...
so you visited
Yeah.
and then went back and then decided this is where you wanted to live and came back here.
Yeah. So I had 0 plans of staying or it's just how it worked out. And then Jude employed me here at the bistro as a junior chef, and I kind of just worked my way up to being head chef. And Jude sponsored me, which was really cool for my residency.
Yeah.
And then just kept going from there and met my wife here. So it's quite funny how hospitality has been kind of my life. Yeah, for 12 years. And so then it actually happens about 7 years ago now. The chef, the sous chef here, she was working at Tauhara College, just doing the hospitality classes. When she left, she kind of approached me. She left town, approached me and was asking, would I be keen into doing these classes? And I was like, I don't really know. It's a bit random. And I was like, I'm only 4 years older than them anyway. So but I was like, I'll give it a go. Why not? I've always kind of had that approach in life to give stuff a go as much as I could, and then I just loved it. And just doing that for 3 years, just going in 4 hours a week, doing hospitality classes, and loved it. And then just so happened to be that the class sizes were growing and growing and growing, and that they needed another hospitality cooking teacher, and they asked me, and I went for it and
jump into it.
Yeah, it's been good.
The hours have got to be a lot nicer.
Yes and
than
no.
Working in a restaurant.
Yes and no. It's still hard, but I think the taking home marking and planning and stuff is tough.
Yeah.
It does push you over a few hours.
Yeah.
But I think it's a different type of work. It's in being in the chef in the kitchen, it's quite physical, quite demanding. But being a teacher, it's quite mentally demanding and kind of, which both have their pros and cons, and it's is tough, but having the weekends off definitely helps.
Yeah.
Having school holidays and stuff, which that is definitely one of the perks. But I think the week to week school is quite early start, early starts at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
I'm in there and meetings, and then if you've got a full day of classes, and then after school meetings and that environment, it gets quite heavy.
Yeah. So I'm just on your full day of classes.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was kind of thinking about when I imagined what teaching would be like.
Yeah.
But yeah, there'll be days where you've only got say 2 groups going through for a class, and then other days you have 5 or 6.
Yeah. Yeah. So the way that Tauhara does it is that there's 3 periods a day, so they're an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So 3 days a week I have 2, and then 2 days a week I have 3 classes.
Yeah.
As well as a form class 3
Yeah.
days a week. So when it's like on Tuesday, for instance, I have a meeting in the morning, 3 classes, and then a meeting after school.
Yeah.
It's quite demanding. It's quite hard, and it's just a lot of preparation work goes into it, and especially ordering food. So because obviously the food truck doesn't get there until 1 o'clock, so I need to make sure the order's there on Monday, which means Sunday night sitting down and figuring out what I need, and then when it gets to the later stage of the week, that I have to do my order for Thursday, for Monday, for the food to arrive on time. So it's there's quite a lot of things about in that sort of sense.
Yeah. Do you have to design your own sort of classes in what you're cooking, or is it kind of already structured?
So I do my own kind of stuff, but it's based around the assessments that we do. So at the minute we're looking at the international cookery stuff. So I'm planning the course around, or that unit, around just like looking at cultural influences into different cultures' food. And it's quite fascinating when you dive into stuff. Lots of influence from Asia comes from China, even in Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
A lot of influence in Europe comes from French influences and moving over time, and it's really interesting actually deep diving into those traditional dishes that you think, like pad thai, for instance, that the noodles originated from China, and they came over and taught the Thais how to make the noodles, and then it kind of went on from there.
Yeah.
It's really interesting looking at that, and the kids really enjoy that as well. So we'll kind of try and link in what they do, a bit of research about what kind of food they do, and then so for instance that pad thai again, that they would look into the pad thai and I go, right, we'll cook the pad thai.
Yeah.
And Eddie can look at the different ingredients that use in that and how they differ from European ingredients and stuff like that. So
so pasta, does that come from noodles as well? Like Chinese noodles? Yeah.
And as for instance, like spaghetti bolognese.
Yeah.
The ragu originated from the French stews and ragus in France. And
Okay.
then they brought it over to Italy, and then that's Italy's national dish, isn't it? It's a dish that
it's a French Asian dish.
French. And so, but it's just the way that the Italians then change it to fit their ingredients and fit their flavors, and it works and it's good. So it's actually really quite fascinating looking into all the cultural influences over time.
Yeah.
And the kids really enjoy it as well. So that's awesome.
And because you think like Indian food, heaps of spices and herbs and a lot of curry, a lot of wet dishes. Yeah. And so you think about China is also a lot of spices and herbs and things like that. But probably a different method, don't they? Do like a lot more oils and infusions.
No, you're right. And like Vietnam and the banh mi is from traditional French cookery and bacon gets, and then they've adapted that to fit their ingredients and their spices and herbs and stuff that they have, which it's cool. It's fascinating. It's interesting.
I wonder, do you have any theories or any knowledge on why so much was drawn from those specific regions? Was it that they were the most accessible, or they were the most advanced, and people travelled and took food?
Yeah, I think that's what it was from. I think from travelling, and it's probably from colonisation as well. Way back when if we're going down the Vietnam route, when the French were occupying Vietnam, I think that was a big influence from there, and then their techniques kind of just led on from that. But I think definitely, guess just people from travelling and bringing their knowledge of their ingredients to other places, and then other people think, oh, that's pretty good.
We'll don't mind me a bit of that.
Yeah, we'll use that. And then like I said, then they use their local ingredients that they use and have available to them to create a new dish, and then that goes off somewhere else, and they're normally pretty good, so they know what they're doing. So no, it's good.
Yeah, and so when you're teaching cookery class, and say when you're doing like international food and things like this, like when I think about it from a bar perspective, there's like, I don't know, a core rule or recipe based around doing a drink, Holy Trinity. 60 mils of spirit, 30 mils of citrus, 15 mils of sugar, and that creates a balance, and that makes your daiquiri, your mojito, all of that sort of stuff. Margarita comes from that. Are there similar rules like that?
Yeah, sure. That's actually really funny. That's like my first lesson of the international cookery is going over the flavour profiles of like sweet, salty, spicy, umami, etc. It kind of then matching up what goes with what, so sweet and spicy goes together, and sour, etc. That's the first kind of lesson, and then the kids then look for a recipe, 3 different recipes, and try and identify what different flavour profiles are in those recipes. And it's a really interesting way to look at it, and how and then we bring the cultures, kind of which countries favour which flavour profiles and how they work together, etc. And then figure out some differences between different countries and different cultures' flavour profiles. So that's kind of the way to do it. And really those flavour profiles are any dish in the world. You can pick out a recipe and identify at least 2 flavour profiles that they go with, just purely because that's how, as humans, we enjoy our food as we like it. If it's something is really sweet, we like the acidity with it. It's interesting that.
So is that quite like a well-established culinary rule that if you've got sweet, you've also got acidity?
Kind of, across the board there is. There's a decent knowledge of that, which is cool.
Nice. And I guess like when you get into, like, I think back to when I was working in an Asian style restaurant, a Chinese restaurant, even the different regions of China have different kind of Szechuan, heaps of Szechuan chili. Jiangxi was like more fresh fish and what do they call it? Crazy water, like salt water and things like this. And everyone had these little sort of pockets of information that for some reason don't seem to be shared by the other regions of the same country as much, but then you travel abroad and ceviche and different things happen of like curing fish without cooking it, and other countries and cultures take knowledge from just specific regions as opposed to as a whole.
That's another thing we look at is the kind of different regions of where those types of ingredients come from, and especially the really specific ingredients that they use, and like Szechuan, that like it comes from that region, and that's what it is. And especially in Italy, where you look at like Parma ham, etc. They're specific to that region, and it has to come from that region. So champagne and stuff like that.
It's exactly what I was just thinking.
No, so it's interesting. We do look at that and kind of look at those specific regions, what comes out of those regions, and then especially it's good for their knowledge, because when they get into year 13, they kind of look at that into a bit more detail and specific cookery methods and stuff that are needed in those regions and where they change. And I think it's really good for the kids to actually gain that knowledge. And even if they don't go into hospitality, it's just a good wealth of knowledge to have, and appreciate where food comes from, and appreciate not food but different cultures and what goes on in those cultures. And that's quite important for young people to appreciate where food comes from first, and what different cultures actually do with their food and stuff.
And why. Being able to just be educated. Educated. For sure. So what is some, like, when you teach about French cooking, what are like the core elements that define French cooking?
So knife skills, the traditional knife cuts like brunoise and macédoine, etc. And then kind of the carrot, maurepas, onions, carrots, celery, garlic.
Okay.
Pretty much a base to any sauce that you'll find around the world, like any jus, any...
Okay, so what was it? Carrot,
celery, onion, are your three kind of...
Okay.
Yeah, that you'll find in most sauces around the world.
Yeah.
Just the base. Yeah, and then just the cooker techniques, like making a roux, for instance, is a French cooking technique.
Yeah. And a roux is...
So that's melting butter, adding flour, cooking the flour out, and then slowly adding milk to make a cheese sauce that you'd use in a mac and cheese, for instance.
Yeah, like a bechamel.
Yeah, bechamel. So, yeah, just learning all those key techniques, because really that's when you go into polytechs and stuff, that's the techniques that you're learning.
Yeah.
Try to learn, and not even learning the names of it.
Yeah.
So if a young chef went into a restaurant and they told them to make a cheese sauce, they actually know straight away what they have to do. It's the three ingredients they need to get first is their butter, flour, milk, and then from there you can flavour it how you want.
Yes.
They don't need to know the word roux in some restaurants, but lots of restaurants would use make me a bechamel, which starts off with a roux.
Yeah.
So it's just gaining those key simple techniques that they will need, whether they go into a restaurant or even if they don't go into a restaurant and go to uni and they want to make mac and cheese. They're not trying to Google how to make it. They actually know just straight away. Boom. Do that straight away. That's fine.
Or they're not just buying the packet cheese sauce stuff that they mix with some hot water and there you go.
Or they don't. I don't know. Chuck it all in a pot together and boil it and hope for the best. They've got some base knowledge that they do, or they don't have to phone their mother up and go, oh, how do I do this? Which happens a lot. So.
Having a bit of cooking knowledge coming out of high school would make you like the king of the dorm at uni.
Exactly. No, you're right.
Here we go again. It's ad time. But don't hit that skip button just yet. Today's sponsor is First Class Cocktails, another company that I own and operate. So technically it's less of an ad and more of me shamelessly promoting myself. You know what's better than a great cocktail? A great cocktail with no effort. Meet First Class Cocktails, New Zealand's premier provider of premium bottled, ready-to-drink cocktails. We're talking about perfectly balanced flavours, made with the finest ingredients, and all you have to do is pour, sip, and enjoy. From timeless classics like the martini and the old-fashioned, to bold new creations like our pineapple and chili margarita. First Class Cocktails ensures every drink feels like a first-class experience. Whether it's a night in or a party out with friends, we've got your cocktail game covered. Order now at firstclasscocktails.com and raise your glass to effortless luxury. First Class Cocktails, because every moment deserves to feel first class.
And it's interesting, like that's kind of, I see my job as kind of catering for both the people that want to go into the restaurants and cook, or even be barmen or bar ladies. The ones that just want to gain that base knowledge of how to cook food. So which is actually, it's really interesting that those basic techniques do go into restaurants, and then your home cooking is actually, they're both as important as each other. Which is cool.
It's interesting that you say like a core part of French cooking is knife skills. Like, is that distinctly French where a lot of knife skills and methods come from, or would you like say in Asia have specific knife skills that vary as well, or do they kind of they're all much of a muchness?
So they are very similar. Just the only kind of thing I guess is that each different knife skill has a French name, which we teach, and you'll see in recipes here at the bistro, you'll see Boudoir or Julienne. And if you pretty much go to any restaurant, I'd say that if someone said to a chef to Julienne a carrot, they would know that they'd get a carrot and chop it into matchstick size straight away. So that's probably where it kind of comes from. I don't know if kind of in Asia and China they have their own
a meat cleaver.
Exactly. But what I say that is actually it's a very very good tool to have. You chop it all up and you can scrape it through.
Exactly.
And it's such a different tool to use than a chef knife. Like using a meat cleaver, it's way harder.
Okay.
Just purely because I guess your hand is away from the blade and the blade's down below, so you actually have to be way more precise.
Okay,
Yeah, it's interesting. That is good to try different knives and go for it. But yeah, I specifically teach kind of the first few lessons is basic knife skills.
Yeah.
How to do it. Kind of, I set up my bench with a chopping board, a wet paper towel underneath so it doesn't slide around. Mm-hmm. 2 bowls for like the fresh cuts and the peels and stuff, and that's the base what I want to see is that I don't like it when they're peeling an onion on the chopping board and they go and chop the same onion, chop the onion on the chopping board and get onion peeling all there. Nicely cut vegetables and not even from a restaurant point of view, but just an eating point of view. If you're then going to make a bolognese and have onion peel in it, that onion peel doesn't break it down anytime soon. So you'll be chewing on some onion peel, which isn't very pleasant. So that's the base kind of, and a little bit of discipline as well with clean chopping board.
Yes.
Clean bowl for your freshly cut vegetables and have a bit of pride over what you've done. It's quite important, I think.
I've always, it's funny how much the bar and the kitchen take and give to each other, because when I first started working in nightclubs, there was not a lot of cocktails going on, and so really your station was a bottle opener. And all you had to do was open bottles, and I remember the first nightclub I was working at, you kind of told how busy the night was from how many bottle caps were on the floor that you had to stand on. And that was like the cool thing. And then when I got into cocktails, it was all about the bottle caps don't go on the floor. They go in the bin. And you have a chopping board and you have a knife and you have your mise en place and everything's clean all the time. You wash out your shakers, you wipe down your board, and then you serve the next customer type thing. And so I think that gets pulled a lot from the culinary side of things and having a clean station and preparing things well. And then also when you talk about like the flavour profiles and palate knowledge, the bar, like I believe bartenders should annoy chefs.
Oh, totally.
Just asking them, does this match? What flavour do you think about this? Because chefs have been doing it for so much longer than bartenders have. And we, to a degree, for a lot of years, limited. Things like a Negroni, like gin, sweet vermouth, Campari. We didn't really venture outside anything that wasn't already in a bottle. Or a lemon or a lime. Whereas like now you've got people... they'll make a pineapple reduction or something, and they're infusing chili into different. We do the pineapple and chili margarita, things like that, and so both worlds drag and drop from each other.
But that's also how people come back to restaurants or go back to bars that do different stuff and do stuff that's good. That like the chili margarita and having the sweet and the spicy actually, and that is what makes our mouths kind of feel happy when we're drinking it, and it's like a sour lolly as well. Like you keep going back to those same sour lollies because they taste good. It's a bit of nostalgia and stuff that you need those flavour profiles to actually make stuff taste good, and it's good to do a little spin on stuff, and it definitely brings people back. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So that expanding that thought, when you're teaching the kids, I assume you're probably teaching them a specific dish, maybe to start with. Like, you talk about making a roux to make a cheese sauce. Do they then have the ability to start off with that base and do their own flair on it and spin on it, and then you taste it and say yay or nay?
So sticking with the roux, quite a fun lesson that I do is just give them a really basic mac and cheese recipe and have a bunch of ingredients just in the pantry or in the fridge that they can make it taste good. I'd say. So make it taste better, and actually chuck in a load of jalapenos and stuff. And the creations come out pretty good. Like last year, there were some kids, so they obviously have to plan it and stuff. Some kids did like a buffalo fried chicken, and then they chopped it all up and mixed it with the mac and cheese.
Nice.
It was good. It was really, really good. But that just thinking outside the norm and outside the box is actually really important for the kids as well, that they actually gain some experience of actually thinking outside the box and kind of thinking what goes with this, what goes with that. And even if they don't go into hospitality, that in every kind of job there is, you have to think outside the box at some point and kind of get creative and think a bit critically of what you're doing. And that's a fun lesson, and in the whole kind of build up of it, of planning what you're doing and kind of experimenting what you're doing, it's fun. So,
I can imagine there's also some horrific dishes that come out every now and again.
Yeah, there's a few funny ones, but I try not to kind of sway them if they go down a thought process. Try and keep them there. And then maybe correct them somewhere else.
Let them make their own mistakes and learn from it.
Oh, exactly. And that's the big thing of learning from mistakes is huge, especially as students, that to actually have an environment where they can make mistakes and learn from it. It's cool. That's kind of one of the big things, is that if something goes wrong in their cooking assessment or for whatever reason, is that instead of correcting them, I teach them why they made that mistake. For instance, last week, another class was making junior class was making cupcakes, and they over-rose out of the tin and made a mess in the oven. And they came over and was like, Ben, what's going on with this? And I was like, you probably misweighed the butter and added too much butter, that the flour couldn't stabilise it, so it just bubbled over and made a bit of a mess. Okay, so what could we do? I was like, we follow the recipe properly. But I think it's really important that they now know to actually weigh that butter perfectly. What they probably did is they got the block of butter, they saw the 50 grams, and just cut it somewhere that they thought, and they probably sliced it at a bit of an angle and got 75 grams, 100 grams or whatever, and that's probably where they actually went wrong. But the knowledge of them knowing that they put too much butter in the recipe that's the learning behind it, really.
That's really interesting. Butter and flour. So butter stabilizes flour?
So the flour stabilizes the butter. Essentially, the flour in the mixture of a cupcake kind of helps stabilize it and gives it structure. Whereas the butter gives it the richness, and you need it. You need all of them for it. It's like a science, essentially. So having too much, the mixture would have been too wet, etc. And it would have just gone and made a bit of a mess. Because
when I interviewed Olivia, that green olive, we talked about was it a line that Marco Pierre White said that cooking is an art, but baking is a science. And so although I've always known that, I've never actually understood the science behind things. I just knew if I'm going to bake something, you follow the recipe to the T. You don't just wing it.
Everything is there for a reason, and every ingredient has a reason to be there.
Imagine the trial and error trying to figure out the first cake recipe.
That'd be crazy. And the question you get a lot is like, as a teacher, is like, why do we use this flour? For instance, like making a pizza dough, using high grade flour, and because it has extra protein in the gluten that stretches to then catch the air bubbles as they rise. That's quite a good little lesson for them. That they actually, if you did it would still work if you used the plain flour. It just wouldn't be quite as good.
So is it going to be like more doughy, floury?
A bit more dense.
More like a bread.
So it's quite interesting actually for them to learn that and actually understand it.
Shit, man, I should have paid more attention in my culinary classes.
Come to my classes now.
Hard out. Enrollments are open. Oh, good shit. And so, there must be so much that can be learnt in a year. And do you have a lot of kids that come back sort of 3 years in a row? Each grade up?
So there's another teacher that does level 1 food technology, and then I do level 2 and 3 hospitality. The pathway is that graduating, coming up from level 1 to level 2 to level 3. It's saying that you don't really need to, but it is good for their knowledge. Level 1 is a lot more basic and doing the techniques right, and then I kind of expand on them and get them to think a little bit further and do some different recipes and there's definitely a good pathway to go through, and then the next step after that is level 4 at Polytech.
Yeah.
Which is a cool course.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a few that go through and do it, and they really enjoy it, and it's really interesting actually speaking to some ex-students, and they always say that actually, me to go back to the knife skills with the chopping board and the bowls, that actually it is really helpful that they actually learn that and do that properly from the start, rather than going into Polytech or into the hospo world and
not
know what they're doing, and then
it makes the whole learning process that much harder.
And actually, exactly, and that's the one thing that I always say to them, that make sure you do it enough times that it becomes muscle memory, that the first thing you do when you make a coastal or whatever is you have 2 bowls, a chopping board with a paper towel underneath it to stop it sliding around, and you're good to go every single time. Boom, 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 and then it does become just human instinct.
Muscle memory, natural instinct, and no matter where they go, they'll set up like that.
And you'll see, if you go into that kitchen right now, you'll see the chefs in there with their chopping boards like that, and that's how life works.
I'm even a damp chucks cloth under the chopping board when I make dinner at home, just to stop it sliding around.
And I just say it's a health and safety thing, that if you've got a carrot rolling around and you're trying to chop it and the chopping board's moving, it gets quite dangerous pretty quickly. For sure. And so, when it comes down to knife skills and the health and safety of being in a kitchen and things like this, what do you teach around sharp knives? So communication is key. If you're carrying a knife around, tell people that you're behind them, and always having the knife pointing down to the ground when you're moving around, and not waving around up in the air. It's not a wand.
I'm a wizard, Harry.
No, don't put your knives in a sink of bubbly water. There's a story of when I was at college, and the guy here above me, I didn't see it, but someone chucked a knife in the sink, and he went to scoop up a chocolate, whatever was in the bottom of the sink, to pick it up, and the knife went through his hand, and it was pretty gruesome apparently. It's just little simple things like that actually make such a big difference. Just moving around with the knife by your side, that if you drop it just goes straight down to the ground rather than anywhere else, or if you trip, that if you're holding a knife around here, then God knows what you're going to do with it. It gets dangerous pretty quickly.
Do the kids have to wear specific, say, steel-toed boots or something?
Just covered shoes.
Shoes.
And aprons and hair tied up, etc. It's not super strict like steel-toe shoes.
Coming in your work boots.
Touch wood, we don't get many accidents at all, just a few little cuts, but nothing that is
it's kind of expected, isn't it? You got to cut yourself at least once just to know you're using a knife. I imagine there's probably more injuries on a grater.
Yes, or peeler. Peeler graters are the worst. They're the worst. They just get them every single time. They're the worst. The chef knives aren't that bad because it's those processes, I guess, in place, and I guess it's probably when you're grading, you put a yarn at your mate and took
the top of the pinky off.
It's just a thing you do quite regularly, that you think it's quite you go off guard a bit, I guess, and you clip yourself.
So are the kids responsible for sharpening knives, or that's something that just teaches?
So that's kind of the thing that we teach, is how to sharpen your knife properly and well. It's hard to keep on top of them because they get used so much.
And I imagine they don't always get looked after.
They're pretty good. They're pretty good at looking after the equipment. But knife sharpening is, so I've got a steel, and I've also got the ones that just sit on the bench and you just drag it through, really quick and easy. And then every now and again I might take my stones in and show them how to do a whetstone. But it's that if they have a blunt knife, then they come and ask me for a sharpener, and they get stuck in and do it. Which is good. It actually shows that they take a bit of pride in what they're doing, and a bit of initiative to think, I've got a blunt knife here, let's go and sharpen it, because it is way more dangerous to cut yourself with a blunt knife than a sharp knife.
And so why is that?
I think purely just because it's a clean cut. If you've got a sharp knife, if you've got a blunt knife, the cut is a bit bigger, I guess. And it hurts way more. And if you just have a clean cut, just a quick little slice, it hurts for a second, and then you kind of squeeze it, and it stops. But if you've got a blunt knife, I guess it probably is. If you look under the microscope, it's a bit of a bigger, thicker cut.
I've always imagined it's just because you've got to put so much more effort into the cutting as well, that there's more risk, say you haven't got your paper towel and your chopping board and you slip forward. Or
no, you're probably right as well,
Yeah, I was talking to a chef up in Auckland yesterday, and he was telling me about a friend of his that only recently was trying to open an avocado and take the pip out. And he reckons it was an unusually soft pip in the avocado. But knife through the centre of his hand.
Yeah, I had a friend when I was training. He trying to juice a lemon, I think it was, and the lemon was like those really rubbish lemons that don't have much juice. So he got his little knife. There's called a Santoku knife that has like a rounded top and quite a thick blade. Yeah, and he put that in. It went straight through, and it's like sad. It's just he just wouldn't have thought that. The knife sharpener is going to go through the other side, and it was a perfect shape to kind of get into the lemon and give it a squeeze. That's a silly mistake.
Just one little lapse in judgment,
And it hurts. Especially if you cut yourself and you get lemon juice for it. It makes it twice as much.
You've just dragged lemon juice all through it. Fuck. That's hard.
It'll kill the bacteria, I guess.
Exactly. At least you know the wound's clean. Oh shit! Yeah. Well, I'm glad they do. You now still thinking about sharpening your knives? Is there a preferred method? What is better, the drag throughs, the steels? I mean, the whetstones, I assume, are probably the best.
So I would say the drag throughs are kind of just a quick little fix up kind of thing. Yeah. Just to keep it sharp. The whetstones are obviously best to actually keep a really good edge on your knife. Yeah. But the steels are fine. Yeah. They don't do as good a job as the whetstones. Yeah. But the steels they're generally pretty good. Yeah. Especially the diamond steels.
And they've been around for so long that kind of stood the test of time.
But definitely if you want to keep the knife sharp, if you get a couple of whetstones, different grits that have do different things and do that once a week, once every 2 weeks. It doesn't take much, though. It takes 30 seconds or a minute to get the edge back on and it's sharp as anything again.
Now I got one of those for Christmas. One of those rolling diamonds.
I've seen them.
Yeah.
I've never tried it. I've actually always kind of wanted to have a go at it.
Yeah, bro.
It looks so easy.
It's super easy. Super easy, although I find when my knives are... Because you got the blade on upside down, right? Yeah. And so as like a chef's knife, and it'll curve down, that when you roll, you kind of got to adjust your angle.
Yeah, sure.
And so you can do the main length of the blade with a roll, and then you've got to adjust it just to kind of do the tip. And you've got two sides, a coarser side and a fine side. But then it also has different angles. Yeah. So mine's got 5 different angles on it. I think they range from 15 to 22 degrees. Now... When I was trying to Google what angle edge my knives originally had on them, I could not find anything.
It's hard.
They're like, between 15 and 30. Yeah. I'm like, what?
Yeah. It's one of those things that if you actually don't know, it doesn't really matter the first couple of times, as long as you keep it consistent, as long as you're not changing it from 15 to 22 every time you do it. Yeah. But it doesn't have to be the original kind of degree on the...
Yeah, okay.
So the key thing is keeping it consistent rather than changing it each time. And then you'd actually end up just putting a new edge on it, essentially.
Yeah. And so when you teach that, is it less about trying to get this is how you get a 15 degree angle and more about this is how you position yourself?
Position is.
And this, as long as you do it this way, you'll stay consistent.
Yeah, so I kind of start off with a T-tail and then it kind of you're holding it down on the T-tail and then going down like that. Okay. And then changing to up there because that's way easier to keep the steel nice and straight and again it's the same angle and just going slowly all the way through the blade. Yeah. And then they can kind of go the other way. It's a good skill for them to learn for when they're at home and doing anything that actually having sharp knives is good.
Yeah.
It makes life way easier when you kind of something you have to put loads of effort into chopping it, and you just slice it and it's easy. So.
My mum and dad at their place, their knives are just hammered.
Mm-hmm.
They go through the dishwasher, everything, and they are blunt as anything. And so
it's really hard to get them sharp. As well.
It is. I've tried. It is a nightmare, and so I've ended up leaving one of my good knives down there, and I'm just like, look,
don't touch it.
Use this to cut stuff. Do not. It gets hand washed. All this, I've had to give them ground rules.
And then you'll go back and sharpen it every time you're there.
Well, when I got my knife sharpener on Christmas, it was the first thing I did. I was like, all right, this it hasn't been sharpened in 6 months. It's time to put a blade on it.
On the other ones to give yourself some practice. Ruin the way the
more. Exactly. So so the kids clearly they've got 3 years of options to go through before they can get to level 4 in Polytechnic. Is level 4 required to start working in a kitchen or become a chef?
No. So I encourage lots of them. There's probably I've probably got about 10 students that are in kitchens just around town, kind of working just part time. I kind of encourage them all to start with a work experience somewhere, just to kind of try it out, just purely because that's the best thing you can do is try something out. And if you don't like it, sweet lads, you figured out that you don't want to do that for the rest of your life. If you loved it, then that's your passion, and you know that you can follow that. So that's the biggest thing that I can encourage. I've had probably 3 or 4 through here at the bistro.
Nice.
Which is cool. And then I've got a couple lined up. I need to speak to Jude and maybe Phil about and kind of to try and get them in there and experience different things. And that's the key thing, I think, is trying to figure out what you want to do. And then from there, part-time job, but then you don't need to go to Polytechnic. I think it's good to kind of learn the more skills and broaden your horizons a little bit. And
just give you a better footing for when you get into it.
And the kitchen is more industrial. Our kitchens at school are more home-based.
Yes.
So learning how to use different pieces of equipment is always good. But generally, you don't need to get a chefing qualification as such. You can go and jump in a kitchen and start from the bottom and learn. I think that's kind of what it was way back when, is that you didn't go and do a course. You just got stuck in and did it. You learn as you went. But the new apprenticeship systems are really, really, really good. How they do, there's 2 different choices. So you can do a forensic QA where you're on site in a restaurant pretty much the whole time, and then someone comes and visits you to do the paperwork. Or through Tauhara College, where you can do a day release every month, I think it is. And you go and learn skills there and do assessments there. Both have their pros and cons. But there's a pretty good system they do here, which is good. And they learn a lot, which is good. And I think it really just learning on the job generally actually makes you way better. As such, and just learning the different, almost not the shortcuts, but how to fix stuff if something goes wrong. Is the big thing that you don't learn if you're not doing it, if that makes sense. It's all only so much can be done with a pen and paper. Before you need to find out that those cupcakes didn't work for this reason. And I think it's a tough industry. It's not easy, and I think I see that as my job. Is to actually explain that it's not easy, but it is rewarding. It is fun. And I think that's the best thing about it. Is that you develop that passion and you love it, and it's great. So
So what was your? Was it? Oh, okay, sweet as. So we've just got a fire alarm test that's going to be going on really soon. So we're going to keep chatting until that happens, and then we're going to maybe pause for 5 minutes while that happens.
I feel like a bit of curveball as well.
Exactly. So when you started cooking, what was, because you did it all a lot through apprenticeship. That's how you got qualified.
So I did a full-time year, not in a restaurant, just at a Polytechnic or college, and then 2 years out in industry.
And what was sort of the progression of how your learning stepped up through that. Were you like put on a specific section, like all you're doing for the first week is scooping ice cream?
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, you're in charge of, you know, steaks or something?
Yeah. So kind of the first year was just learning the skills and learning just the really basic skills. And I was just working, I think, part-time and doing dishes and doing... they're close. Doing learning the basics. And the second year was then kind of introducing the industry side of it more and working in a restaurant. And so you start on the garnishing section, the cold entrees probably.
The cold entrees, okay.
And you learn that, and then you might go up to...
So pretty much you have to start with stuff that doesn't even get cooked yet.
Well, the prep is cooked. So,
yes.
And I think it's a bit more slower paced.
Yeah.
Doing that, and then you do work your way up pretty quickly. And I think everywhere does it a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. So then I started probably then. I was actually on the pass probably before I was cooking the proteins and plating and kind of running the kitchen as such. Which is it's probably almost a little bit backwards, calling the dockets and running it. But then it was quite a fast pace when I was working in England. It was quite fast and busy, so that was good. And then you get onto the proteins, and then you're cooking proteins and
so proteins are sort of the crown jewel.
Yeah. That's the big one. That's where all the chefs want to be. It's cooking proteins, and it's the most rewarding section. It's the hardest section to master, to get perfect, because you've got such a degree of cooking. If, for instance, if you're on a cold entree and there's not an awful lot that could go wrong during service, but if you're cooking steaks and etc., that you've got a couple of degrees where it has to be a couple of degree margin, and then after that it's gone. So I think it's the hardest and it's the most stressful, but it's probably the most fun.
Yeah, it's the most on the fly.
Yeah.
And so when you say protein section, you're cooking all types of protein.
Yeah.
Steak, like beef, lamb, chicken, fish.
Yeah. You're probably also maybe managing the deep fry as well if it's doing fried fish or I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
I think all restaurants do it slightly differently. You might just have a grill chef in a burger place where they're just doing burgers, and then you might have a deep fry guy or whatever. So
you mastered those chips.
Yeah, well done. But there's always, every restaurant does it a little bit differently.
Is there quite an art to the deep fat fry?
Yeah, I think the oil cleansiness is probably the hardest part. That if the oil is dirty, it doesn't taste good. I think everyone's probably had a chip that's been cooked in a dirty fry and you can taste it, and it's not very nice.
Yeah.
But the timings, you want them to be hot and fresh, obviously, when they come out. You don't want to start double frying them in hot oil, because then they start absorbing that oil.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is a bit of a art. It's not the most difficult section ever. But just managing the heat, because obviously if you've just chucked in a load of frozen chips, it's gonna drop down in temperature, etc. So it's pretty easy, really. It's not too difficult, but it's
But it's one of the like you say, it is easy.
Yeah.
But a small lapse in judgment, like putting frozen chips into it and not keeping an eye on the temperature, or not, scooping out the crumbs so that it doesn't burn, and the little things are really what
and if it's busy and you've got a menu that is high deep fryer, and you've only got 2 deep fryers, and you start getting slammed on it, and you could get backlogged pretty seriously. Well, I actually can't do anything. It's just gonna have to take the time that it takes.
And I guess you can't just load the baskets up as much as possible. You get 6 tables of kids that all want chips. It's not just let's put as many chips as we can in, it's let's put as many chips as possible to still be cooked properly.
Exactly.
Like anything, there's an art to it,
Oh, exactly. No, it's true.
Cutting a carrot, there's an art to it. Putting chips in a fryer, there's an art to it. Cooking the steak, there's an art to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Brace yourselves. It's sponsorship time. I know ads can feel like the Broccoli podcast, but today we're talking about the Bar Society, a company I own and operate. So think of it as supporting my broccoli farm. This goes out to all cocktail lovers and hospitality pros. Are you ready to elevate your drinking experience? Introducing the Bar Society, New Zealand's leading clear ice supplier. Whether you're stirring down a classic old-fashioned or crafting the perfect gin and tonic, there's no substitute for crystal clear ice. Not only does our ice look stunning, but it also melts slower, keeping your drinks colder and your flavors perfectly balanced. From home bartenders to high-end establishments, the Bar Society's here to bring your beverages to the next level. Order today and see why we're trusted by the best bars and restaurants in New Zealand. Visit thebarsociety.co.nz and let us transform your drinks. The Bar Society. Elevate your drinking experience.
Yeah. Just different degrees of difficulty, I guess.
Yeah. What's something that you find that you struggled with the most?
I think looking back when I first started, it was probably the pace and kind of keeping up with chefs that have been doing it for 10 years.
Yeah.
It's kind of the memory of what you have to do and when you have to do it.
Yeah.
But I was actually speaking to Jude, I think it was last week, about how every single person that I've trained, or even myself, there was actually a time where it was a bit of a struggle, it was hard.
Yeah.
And it just clicked. There's an instance where it just, I couldn't put my finger on what it was.
Yeah.
But it just clicked, and you just kind of, you get used to the speed of it, you get used to what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it just becomes, I guess, it's second nature, and muscle memory is probably, it's actually probably where it does start, and it's, you're not thinking about where this is in the fridge, you just grab it and you go.
Yeah.
And it's actually, I think it's probably is that.
Yeah.
But every single person, like even in front of house, that you actually see when they're training in a new place, the first couple of weeks is a bit of struggle, 3-4 weeks might be a struggle. And
then putting the wrong knives down, little things like that.
Yeah, and then you actually see that there is just a click, and it all kind of just comes together, and then you just get it. It's probably the thing that's the change, that you actually just understand everything, and you know the processes, you know what you're doing. It becomes muscle memory, and those little things don't become big things. I think that's probably what it is. If you put in a knife wrong in every single place and someone has to go fix it and it annoys them, then they have to fix your mistakes.
There we go.
Fry as well.
Yeah, it gave me a
fry.
That's it.
You're not burning the place down, John?
That's it. Cool. Easy. That was quick. And I think like hospitality, because there is a certain degree of high turnover of staff in different restaurants. There's some restaurants that hold on to staff for years and years and years, which is great. Whoever's running that restaurant is doing something really, really well. But then you have other restaurants that are turning people over like it's going out of fashion. And the good thing about the industry is that it is very structured. We look around the tables here, the water glasses are in the same spot on every table, the same knives, the plates are set up the same. Just in the kitchen, there's the order of service. This goes on the plate first, then that follows, and then the sauce, and then the garnish, and it gets sent. And so because it is so structured and orderly, whenever something goes wrong, it's really easy to backstep and know where you went wrong. And it's also easy for people that weren't even in that section to see what's going wrong, because it is so organised. Which is, I think, a good thing about hospo. And that's like you say, it clicks. I think about when I first started, there's things that just click. And it was just learning a couple of little rules and orders of how things are done. And once you establish those footings, everything came naturally afterwards. You just were expanding on well-established,
I think it's also the people around you as well. That I remember when I was first starting, I probably wasn't very good, and there were chefs that they were a real firm on me, but they were fair. I knew that I might have been quite slow, or for instance in that spot I did something wrong, and they kept those expectations high, and they didn't let me slip below. So I guess they probably saw potential, and I think that's probably the big thing.
There we go again.
Is that you have.
That's it. Yeah, I think
on a Sunday as well. That's a bit weird.
Yeah. And hard day work.
But yeah, I think the people around you are important. That the expectations are high.
Yeah.
But then when you do something well, they praise you. I think that's probably quite. And I look back at when I was 16 and struggling in kitchens, and there was a couple of guys that were there and real supportive, but firm as well, which is. I think that's what is kind of what is needed. Yeah. That you actually you know you made a mistake, and you hear about it, but then they actually help you through. Yeah. And figure out how to make it better.
Yeah. Heart of a teacher type thing, and it must be quite rewarding for you, having gone through the hard yards of being in the kitchen yourself to now being in a teaching position. Yeah. And I can imagine, there are things that you're very firm with on the kids to make sure they know it's right. But then rewarding for yourself. So the seniors dinner that gets done every year, and you've been gracious enough to welcome me along to help do cocktails, and I get to see all the food and everything like that. And it's I like seeing the kids do something that they've sort of put their heart and soul into, and they're stuck in the kitchen. Yeah. And so me being front of house serving cocktails to all the parents and teachers that are there having a meal, I genuinely get to see the reactions of the food, and it's heartwarming, if I'm honest.
I think that's my favourite thing about being a teacher, is that not in the restaurant, even in the kind of setting, but just in the classroom setting when the kids, when they get something and they actually, their face when they actually understand something and they've done something cool, is their eyes just light up, and that moment when they get it that's pretty cool. And that's kind of, I think,
that's going to stay with them.
Yeah, it does, and it does stay with them. And I remember back when I was at school, and the teachers that gave you praise when you did good, you do remember it. And I really like seeing that in the kids, actually, when they understand something and they get it, and they do some cool stuff. And looking back to the restaurant evening, that was a pretty cool evening for me. That was fun. I just see the kid nervous at the start when I was giving the briefing, and kind of.
Because last year, was that the first one you had done?
Yeah, so they did it years ago before COVID. Yeah. Actually, before the school got flooded. Before COVID. And then it stopped then, and then we kind of brought it back last year. It's kind of been on the list to do. It was really good fun, and the kids really enjoyed it. And the process I'm changing it this year a little bit. So last year, when I did the liquor license, I didn't realise they needed a menu straight away. So I applied for the liquor license, and then they're like, "Oh, can we have the menu?" And I was like, "Oh shit, I better do that." So I just quickly did it and just sent it in so I get it back. But this year I'm going through the process actually at the minute to develop the dishes with the kids. So there's a few of them on each dish, and they're coming up with some ideas, and then I go along and help. And I've got a book where it's got all the ingredients that you can ever think of, and what matches with those ingredients. And so, for instance, the dessert that they're thinking of is doing like a white chocolate and raspberry kind of vibe, and so I got the book out, and they were like, "Oh, white chocolate and pistachios go," and then they go to raspberries. "Oh, they match as well," and they're like, "Oh, we'll do that. That's so cool." Yeah. And I was like, "We'll try and think about some different ways we could do pistachios rather than just roast some pistachios and put them on the things."
Rather than a bit of a pistachio.
So they've come up with doing like a pistachio cake with the white chocolate and raspberry mousse. And
it's cool.
It's getting there. It's cool. It's interesting. So that's an ongoing process at the minute. Hopefully we'll polish that up in the next few weeks, and then I can get the liquor license in and start promoting it again. And so I think we had 55 guests last year, which is really cool. Majority were parents and teachers, which is really cool. A few people from the community, like Jen and Sophia from Misfit Garden, came along, which is really cool. They're a huge supporter, so we did it as a fundraiser for our Kulakai project, which is Kulakai are a charity, and they give schools freezers, and then the people in the schools and the community, they cook food for the freezers, and then they go out to anyone in the community that is in need of food. So if they're struggling with food for whatever reason, or a new baby came along, and they can go, here's some pie, or the attendance team use it for when they're doing checkups on truancy, that they're welcoming them with a handful of food. That's way more welcome to bring someone in. So we use it as a fundraiser for that, which is really cool. Misfit Garden do loads of donations of veggies, not just for us, our school, but for the whole country. They ship out vegetables all the time, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was really cool to see the community kind of. We had, I can't remember how many prizes. It was like 25 prizes from donations from local businesses for silent auctions and raffles.
Yeah.
And then the flip side of that is that the kids then get to kind of get that hospitality feeling and understand what it's like to be in a service. And so it's a bit of a double-edged sword, which is really cool. We raise heaps of money for our own like little charity thing we do, and then give the kids an actual authentic experience.
Love it.
Hospitality industry that they wouldn't have had if not. And I think the other thing, the feedback from the adults that were there was really awesome. The feedback from the kids was really awesome. That I had a couple of students that were there. They probably weren't the best at school. They were pretty good in my class. And they came along and they had the best time ever. They loved it. And their mums were out in the dining room and they loved it, and it was really cool to see them getting stuck in to do something like that. And it was outside of school hours, so they had to come back to school at, I think it was like 5 or 4 o'clock to start getting set up, and then they didn't leave till maybe 10. So it was pretty cool.
Big day
to see the commitment that they put in for that. And again, the reward at the end of it was seeing these kids, like the kids, essentially run a restaurant for the evening. It was pretty cool. It was fun.
For sure. And it's interesting to know, it's cool to know that the kids are taking such a big part in planning what they're going to be making. It's not like I remember when I was in cooking class in school, you go in, teachers like, today we're making burgers. There's mince, roll it out, make a patty. Here's your buns, here's your lettuce, your tomato and your cheese. All right, cool, awesome, yay. Or today we're making pikelets. These are the ingredients. Whereas these kids, and to be fair, I was probably at a lower level, but they're having some real input, and you're able to use the resources like your book to help them learn flavour combinations and what shit works and what doesn't. And I assume you're probably going to try the dishes before you do them out.
We'll do a bit of recipe development and stuff. And see what works and whether we do a big batch of the mousse, for instance, and pipe it, or do we set it in containers and do quenelles, or do we find little bowls that we set it in and pop out?
So it's not even just what the food is, but how you plan on servicing it, and the plate presentation becomes a big part of it.
So I've got an idea of kind of what I would do. But it's not my show, so it's kind of it'll be on them to kind of figure out those kind of things, which is I'll guide them pretty carefully along the way. And, but I'll let them make mistakes.
They're bowling with the bumper rails.
But that's important. I think that they then when we make 55 of those plates, and the kids that design that dish get to see it, and I think that'll be a pretty cool moment. For them to see it, and then their parents, if they're out dining, actually get to see that they created this restaurant quality dish. Was pretty cool. So,
for sure. So do the kids back of house enjoy the same meals that they're cooking for everyone, or is it like a real kitchen where they're literally eating the scraps and the leftovers?
Funny thing is, we actually before the restaurant evening, I got a load of pizzas in. They all had pizzas, which is give them real hospitality experience. But we did a few dishes up for them to try. So they all got to try it, or they all tried the dishes before, which is cool, and all the different elements that they were doing. It was cool seeing them. A couple of kids did an element on each dish, and then it all coming together, because they kind of, I guess they probably don't, because they didn't design it, the dish, they were doing this like a mushroom broth, for instance. Like, what about this for? Why am I doing it? This is weird. But then when they saw it all come together on the plate,
that was with the dumplings, right?
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, that was really good.
That was good. That was good. It's one of those experiences that. So I did that when I was at school. We actually went out to a restaurant, and they hosted us, and we were in the kitchen, and it was such a cool. I remember that experience of the day, and it was such a fun experience. So I'm hoping that has the same effect on these guys, and I kind of I open it up to everyone in my classes, and majority of them are the ones that kind of want to either do hospitality in the future or already do hospitality. That kind of get stuck in and do it, and then I love it. It's good fun.
Yeah,
and it's hard work for the week prior of organising everything, because obviously it's a classroom that we're setting it up in, so we have to order tablecloths and order the heat lamps to keep the food hot, and kind of I have to organise 55 of each plate. So Mavericks was really awesome. They gave plates, and Jude gave plates and bowls, and
great.
Just trying to that organisation of
the community definitely like chips in.
Oh, and it's so cool to see community actually chip in and help out. And whether it was donating a prize or a raffle. Whatever,
or supplying a plate or a bowl,
exactly. It's those little things that help immensely.
Yeah,
because I couldn't imagine the cost if we had to go out and buy 4 courses of 55 plates, cutlery, glasses, like just everything.
Even just serving trays. And
exactly. Yeah.
All the shit that you wouldn't normally need for a day-to-day cooking. And then you got to store it.
Exactly.
And like that's a headache in itself. Yeah.
So no, it's good, and it's so rewarding at the end of it when the kids have seen their creations and what they've done come to fruition, and just doing stuff. And all of them, the front of house last year that they had no idea what they were doing, and then I had a few key members that have done hospitality front of house before, and they kind of took the lead and showed them what to do, and by the end of it they were rocking it and doing really well. It was. There was
definitely good. A couple of standouts that I saw on the floor last year that just had the confidence. Like I've been in a restaurant, I know how to take an order, and I know how to drop food on a table, and I know how to clear glasses. And even with that minimal amount of knowledge that a 16, 17-year-old has, being able to watch a couple of them step into like a restaurant manager,
like a leadership role.
And like they're okay. Dave, you're looking after that table. Cindy, you're looking after that table. Now this course is coming out. We need to clear these knives. Like it was quite cool seeing young kids. Step up and slot themselves into positions that you need. And it kind of, I saw from where I sat, these are the ones that are going to end up. Whether they stay in the hospitality game or not, they're going to end up managers or leaders in an industry that they choose. And the skills are very translatable.
Oh, for sure. And that actually happened really naturally. I showed up maybe 1 or 2 to kind of help lead the team. But naturally they did it anyway, which was really cool. And I think as a leader, it's not about doing everything. It's about letting other people do stuff and actually share the workload around, rather, because I'm sure there's plenty of restaurant managers out there that could actually do every single thing themselves and do it well, but that's no good for anyone, because when they have a day off, then no one knows how to do anything. So part of a leader is about training and teaching people how to do stuff. So, and it was really cool to see naturally people step up, and then that brings people up around them that they could potentially step up this year because they've known what happened last year. It's
just got that basic level of experience now. They're less, and then that gives the space for the newer kids that haven't done it before to get a little more sort of in-depth teaching and experience, and it'll just continue to turn itself over and repeat in the next year, the same sort of cycle, but those first kids this year have got experience next year.
Exactly. That's why I kind of do year 12 and 13, that the year 12s are stepping up, and their first year is a bit but then those year 13s that did it last year are kind of, they know what they're doing as such. It's them, they're now the leaders of the pack and taking it through, and then it's good for the first year kind of kids that are doing it, that they can actually see, well, this person did it last year, that's where I'm going to be next year.
For sure. One thing I also saw, which was really cool, was when you're in school, there's such a teacher-student sort of relationship where what I saw was that the teaching staff were a little more relaxed, and they kind of viewed and treated the kids more as peers.
Yeah.
Like it was less I'm the teacher and I'm teaching you something, and more of we're working together to bring this night together. And it was really cool to see that as well. And you saw, you know, some of the kids and teachers be more powwow. A little bit more banter and more comfort with each other, and there was respect between the both of them, as opposed to rah 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 rah, which I thought was awesome.
The general school culture is quite positive around that. Especially in the older year 11, 12 and 13, there is very much a good student-teacher relationship throughout the whole school, which is really cool. And I did an observation on a maths teacher a couple of years ago, and he's so calm and amazing at his job that the kids knew they expected it straight away. They walked in, they got their books out, dead silent. He was writing on the board, and the kids knew that they got their books out. He was writing equations or something, and they just did the work. And I was like, whoa. The teacher didn't say a word. And I was like, that is next level respect.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And then once that's done, then the teaching starts. And it's pretty cool to see that he's developed that over quite a few years. That he's got that relationship with the kids, and got that relationship, or just that expectation that the kids, they know they do that, and that's probably years and years of training that. My older sister was in your class and she did that. She told me that when you go in, you do that. And it was quite cool. So there's some really good teaching going on.
Yeah, and I imagine cool. the kids get to take away so much more of that. You know, it's much easier to learn from someone that you respect and that you want to do what they're trying to teach you, as opposed to feeling though you're forced to be there. Yeah,
and that developing that relationship is key with the kids, is that you actually have a mutual respect for each other. Yeah. That, I mean, if there's, we could probably all think back to our school, the teacher that you didn't like, and I can tell you I didn't do my work with the teacher that I like. So I think that's the biggest part of the teaching, is actually developing those relationships with the kids. You actually know your learners, you know what their background they come from, you know their needs, and you can cater for those needs. I think that's the key for me that I've learned, is to put the hard yards in at the start of the year. Get to know them as human beings rather than kids as such.
Yes.
Because
they're young adults.
Yeah, they don't want to be treated as kids. You don't want to get them all up and sit them on the floor and preach to them as such. You actually you want to have that kind of two-way learning is key. And
for sure.
That's good. And that's a lot of my stuff is, hey, we're doing international cooking this week. What do you want to learn? Mm-hmm. And they go, oh yeah, can we do dumplings? And we're like, yeah, sweet. Yeah. So we'll do some research about dumplings, and then we'll get into making dumplings, and I'll do a bit of research and learn how to do some cool shapes in dumplings that I probably don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's great, because it also pushes you to learn some more stuff as well,
which is good.
I
really enjoyed it in that kind of stuff. And
have you noticed your teaching style or your approach to it has changed as you've got more experienced at it? Yeah and no. Or has it just been more of a comfort?
Yeah, I think it's more a comfort thing. Yeah. I've always been quite relaxed teaching. Like, I don't shout, and I try not to shout. There's a few times you have to, but I generally quite relaxed, and relaxed style is quite good for the kids, and they know they have a lot of input in their learning and what they want to learn, and that's probably key as well. That's kind of what I try and do the most, and then it's just getting confidence in teaching as such. I know my stuff.
Trusting your own knowledge.
I know my knowledge, and I know what I'm doing. It's actually getting up then and probably portraying that to the needs of the class is actually that's probably the hardest thing as teaching is actually giving my knowledge to others, that some of them might be really high achievers, some of them a bit low achievers, actually telling them in a way that they can all understand and all develop their knowledge, because there's a lot of different needs out there.
Yes.
As teachers, we have to cater for those needs, and there's no point in going up here and telling all the high achievers, this is the knowledge you need.
Ignoring the low achievers.
They just won't get anything in that. That's where we are.
Yeah, and you're only as strong as your weakest link. So the more you can bring the lower.
And it's really difficult to in an hour and a half lesson to cater for every single one of their needs. There's do you work heaps with the low ones that then the others kind of go, oh, I'm not getting any attention, or do you go for the high ones and then the low, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, and then the middle ones are kind of the ones that actually probably get missed the most. That they don't stay. Yo, can you help me?
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest challenge, I guess, is to make time for every single need of a kid in the class. I think that's the challenge. But
all right, team, it's that time again. Sponsor advertisement time. Look, I know ads can feel like one song on repeat, but today's sponsors are the Bar Society and First Class Cocktails. If you've listened this far through the podcast, you already know that they're two companies that I personally own and operate. So hey, if you're rolling your eyes, at least roll them over to our websites and get ready to take your cocktail experience to the next level. Imagine this: First Class Cocktails premium bottled drinks paired with the Bar Society's crystal clear ice. It's a match made in cocktail heaven. Whether you're hosting a dinner party, impressing guests at a wedding, or just treating yourself to a well-deserved drink, these two brands will bring you everything you need for a flawless pour. First Class Cocktails delivers unbeatable flavour, while the Bar Society adds the perfect touch of elegance with slow-melting, pristine ice. Why settle for ordinary when you can create extraordinary? Head to firstclasscocktails.com and thebarsociety.co.nz to order today. Together, we'll elevate every sip. First Class Cocktails and the Bar Society. The perfect pairing for your perfect pour.
I love it. I enjoy it, and it's good fun, and it's so rewarding.
It's cool. I've loved coming along and watching it all happen and come together and seeing how much energy and effort you put into it, and seeing how much the kids enjoy doing it with you. It's great. So when is the next dinner?
So the date is still to be confirmed. I think it's sometime in September.
Yep.
Towards the end of September, so at the end of term 3, I think that is. Similar time as what it was last year. So I think the work starts now with developing the menu and the liquor licensing. The board of trustees already approved it, which is cool. And then starting getting those plates in and the equipment that we need, and kind of organising all that sort of stuff. And we're still going to raise money for the Kulukai and our breakfast club as well. Which neither of them really get funding from school. We kind of have to go outside and find and get our own funding, which is fine. Our breakfast club, we get donated wheat bix and milk.
Love it.
I mean, it's great, but when you're having wheat mix and milk 3 times a week, it gets pretty boring.
I can imagine.
So we do like cheese toasties on a Wednesday morning and pancakes on a Friday morning. Which again is cool. I've got a core group of kids that run that, which is really awesome. It's actually quite fun. They get there before me. And I'm like, guys, I tell you all the time, like, we don't start till late, and they're there at like 7:45, 7:30, like getting stuff ready. Which is it's mate. They're really cool kids. And amazing.
Great work ethic. That's exactly what you want in the kitchen.
It's crazy, and they just love helping others, which is really cool. So they love cooking food for the kids that maybe not have had breakfast, and it is so important that the kids start their day off with a decent breakfast and a decent food. I'm sure we've all been to a time at work where you've skipped breakfast and this is actually quite hard. Imagine yourself as a growing teenager in that sense, that you're never going to learn properly.
No,
you're never going to get to the stage where you're learning because your mind is elsewhere. Think, I'm so hungry. And there's a bit of a need for it at the minute. And that brings a very large sense of community between the school. It's not like the kids are separating themselves and picking on each other and shit like that. They're wanting to chip in and help each other, which is great. We've it's been a bit of a development to the stage where we don't have any stigma around it, that if you're coming to get food that you're poor or you haven't eaten, that it's a stage where there's music going, the student executives maybe playing a game with other kids, and it's a fun place to be. Then you can come and hang out in the morning and get a free food. And
I mean, shit, I love a free feed.
Well, we always say that kind of if we have 10 people come and only one person actually needs that food, that's a success.
Yeah.
And if 20 people come and two people that need food, that's a success. Anyone that needed food that gets food is a success.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the way we roll with it, and that's good. So you're raising money for that, which is really cool. And then Kurakai program as well. And then we're good.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that it's as successful as last year.
I think it will be. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm excited. So
I got to think
if anyone
about
out there there's got anything to donate or any
Yes.
business gift cards or anything.
How would they go about donating?
Either flick you a message and then you can flick them onto me. It's probably
Cool.
the easiest way, I reckon. It's probably the easiest way. Or message me directly through school is also fine.
Cool, Tauhara College in Taupo.
Yep. We're good.
Yeah, happy days. Now, do you have a breadcrumb mojito moment?
Probably got many.
Either from when you started in the cooking world.
Probably back then. So
Yeah.
it's quite embarrassing. But
Okay, bring it on. Bring it on.
So, it was. I was on the cold entree section, and there was a dessert chef, and she went off to do something. I don't know what she was doing anyway. And a docket came through for desserts, and it was a sticky date pudding at the time with butterscotch sauce. And I know she made butterscotch sauce before in the day. Someone just happened to make the jus during the day as well. So for some reason they put the jus on the dessert bench. You probably see where this is going from already.
Yeah.
So the way that we used to do the butterscotch sauce is that you do it quite dark to get the bitterness out of the sugar, so it wasn't super sweet. So it was exactly the same colour as the jus. So there was me thinking, there was a label in the jus, so I was thinking that she just made the butterscotch sauce and she was just, go on, chuck it on the thing and out it goes. So I went and I microwaved the sticky date pudding, put it on the plate, and then got the ladle out, straight over the top, and then finished it off, sent it up to the pass. I think one of the chefs saw it and was like, that looks a bit weird. And just so happened the time I tasted the white rice food across the ladle and tasted it, and I was like, oh shit, that's gravy. So I ran back and got it. So I was like 16 at the time.
And you saved it before it went to the table?
I think it did, luckily. So I was then called Bisto Ben Bisley at college for the next year. It was quite funny. Actually, literally, we made sticky date pudding at school last week. And I told them the story. And
that's great.
We all make mistakes. And it's been fun. It's quite funny.
Yeah.
It's
good
it's
shit.
Just
very savoury sticky date.
It's one of those things that, there's so many different things that went wrong for that moment. Just the fact that why would someone put gravy on the dessert bench?
And why is there a ladle in it ready to go?
Whether she's done it before, who knows? And it actually went up. But no.
Exactly. I wonder how many other people got
definitely not
savoury sticky date that night.
And she made that butterscotch sauce before earlier in the day, and it was there. It was hot. It was quite funny. I got quite a lot of shit for that, which is
good shit.
Which is funny.
Yeah, love it. All right.
Cool.
Thank you very much, bro.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, appreciate your time. And for anyone out there that wants to either get tickets or donate a prize to the fundraiser for the Tauhara College restaurant evening for Year 12s and Year 13s, both of us will be there.
Yep, that sounds good.
Making drinks and making food.
Thanks for helping as well. It's always important that we have people helping like you, and
it's good fun.
Couldn't serve drinks without you, so it's always good to have that little
which
is good. But thank you for.
I like being asked, and I'm a big, a little bit like yourself, heart of a teacher, and help where I can, and I think that people need to have a drink when they're enjoying a nice restaurant evening out, something to wash down all the beautiful food that's been cooked. And I'm really happy to be along. It's it's a fun little, I don't really consider it work. It's just coming along to hang out, and I get to sort of chat to you, and I hang out with my mates, really.
No, it's good fun, and it is rewarding. It is. It's hard work in the planning stage, but the reward is way expensive. So that's good.
For sure, and it's only really one night.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with just going doing one night. You know, like a restaurant, when we spent so many years in restaurants and no longer are now. Yeah. Mind you probably come back into here how I felt.
I was here last night.
There you go.
Yeah, most weekends. But I quite enjoy it. It's quite good fun. And
there you go, yeah.
Like, not as much responsibility and just come and cook. And
and you're not responsible for the ordering and the prep and everything like that. You just come in and sort of cook the food you already know.
Yeah, it is good fun. And I enjoy coming and hanging out with you and the team. It's good fun. And
there's some food. Sit down, have a beer afterwards.
Yeah, well, I'm not drinking.
Well, not drinking at the moment.
I had a bit last night. It was actually quite good. So.
Yeah,
that's good.
Good shit. Awesome. Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you.